The Eastern Conference play-in is a pretty drastic difference to the Western Conference counterpart. It again features some notable stars, but the four teams are all in different places. Two of the teams on paper are capable of doing some serious damage as a lower seed. The other two have been stuck in the middle and destined to meet in the 9-10 game for months. For those unfamiliar with the play-in, the 7 and 8 seeds, in this case the 76ers and Heat, will match up, and the winner of the game is the 7th seed in the conference. Then the loser of that game plays the winner of the matchup of the 9 and 10 seed, in this case the Bulls and Hawks, later this week. Whoever loses the game between the 9 and the 10 has their season end. I'm going to take a deeper dive into these matchups, point out some areas each team can attack, and eventually pick my winners. Typically in the Eastern Conference, we don't see 7 or 8 seeds that we feel are capable of making deep postseason runs, though the Sixers and Heat aren't your typical teams that would be here. Before Joel Embiid needed surgery, the Sixers were one of the premier teams in the league, dominating on both ends. They treaded water without him, and now healthy, no team wants to see this group in the first round. Then there's the Heat, who were in this same spot last year before a finals appearance. At this point, we just know they can't be counted out with their ability to grind out postseason wins. These two teams split their season series, but the Sixers did win the one game Embiid played. However, this contest has a chance to be a rock fight, as both teams are in the top 3 for defensive rating over their last 15 games. This game should be a lot of fun, as the Sixers have had a lot of success offensively in areas where the Heat excelled defensively. The Sixers are very efficient in transition, but the Heat do a great job of getting set early and limiting potential opportunities. With players like Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, the Sixers resort to isolation more than most teams. The Heat are in the 80th percentile defending it. One interesting wrinkle will be how often the Sixers incorporate handoffs into the two-man game of Embiid and Maxey. The duo has had plenty of success with them, but the Heat on a per-game basis defend the fewest possessions that end in handoffs. Oh, and they've been fantastic when defending those too. One area that could be the difference in this game is the Sixers shooting off the dribble. Only 6 teams had more possessions and in jumpers off the bounce, and the Heat on a per-possession basis grade out around average defending them. Those can be tougher shots, but if the Sixers get them to fall, it can mean a lot in a game where points are tough to come by. It's that time of year again for playoff Jimmy Butler. We've seen it time and again, but Butler has stretches where he's drastically more assertive, hunting his own shot in the postseason. Butler, given one of his strengths, actually has a decent matchup here. He's a talented scorer out of isolation, where he's incredible at drawing free throws and can create shots for teammates out of the action. The Sixers have been league average defending isolation possessions, so this is something to watch out for. Tyler Hero is also back from injury, and he's been able to create out of isolation or pick and roll for himself and others. His ability to shoot from all levels off the dribble also needs to be accounted for. Despite having Bam Adebayo, the Heat have surprisingly struggled on plays incorporating the roll man out of pick and roll. Adebayo is a talented passer where he can create advantages out of the short roll, but don't be stunned if he attempts a 3 or 2 in this game. It hasn't been a huge part of Adebayo's game to this point, but he's always shown solid touch from the mid-range, and over his last 17 games has taken over 1.5 threes per contest. My X factor in this game will be Kelly Oubre Jr. Given his size and athleticism, the Sixers will likely have him spend time defending a variety of players, most notably Butler, Hero, or even Terry Rozier. The other reason why I'm highlighting Oubre is he's a streaky three-point shooter, and it's evident looking at his shooting splits. In Sixers wins, he's shooting 35% from 3, which is still less than ideal when shooting nearly 5 threes a game, though that has dropped to 26% in Sixers losses. At those percentages, the Heat will live with the attempts, but if he gets hot, it can alter the game. The prize for winning this game is a matchup with the Knicks, who both teams are very familiar with. I had a tough time picking this one, as both teams have championship-winning coaches and multiple All-Stars, though a few weeks ago I said the Sixers were a sleeping giant, so I'm rolling with them, though it's incredibly tough to pick against Miami. You know how some of the playoff seedings and matchups came down to the final day of the regular season? That certainly wasn't the case for this matchup, where the Hawks take on the Bulls. While both teams have been impacted by injuries, this matchup has pretty much been locked in for months. These teams played 3 times during the regular season, and the Bulls won 2. Though they were all relatively close, and with both teams in the bottom third of defensive rating over their last 15 games, this could be a high-scoring affair. One interesting note to pay attention to in this one is that while the Bulls perform well in transition, they rarely push the pace with the fewest possessions per game in the action. The Hawks were the worst team in the league defending it on a per-possession basis, so it wouldn't be stunning if the Bulls played with a little more pace in this one. For the Bulls, their offense will run through DeMar DeRozan, and understandably so. On top of that, he has a nice matchup here. While DeRozan often plays power forward in the Bulls' smaller lineups, the Hawks will be without Jalen Johnson, and they're already lacking wing depth. DeRozan this year has been fantastic, creating for himself and others out of pick and roll, where he's consistently a threat to pull up and shoot in the mid-range, or get downhill to attack or find teammates. The Hawks have been among the league's worst defending the action, so DeRozan will be going to it early and often. Some of this is three-point variance, but no team is allowed a higher shooting percentage on shots off the catch considered unguarded than the Hawks. The Bulls have struggled on spot-ups this season, though players such as Alex Caruso and Ayo Dosunmu have been very effective this year shooting off the catch, so it wouldn't be surprising if one of them got hot from three. After missing over a month due to injury, the Hawks got Trae Young back at the perfect time. He's an interesting matchup in this one, as while Young is fantastic creating for himself and others out of pick and roll, the Bulls are above average defending the action on the year. Though over their last 15 games, they've been vulnerable, allowing both points and assists to opposing point guards at high rates. One reason for this is the Bulls on a per-possession basis have had a tough time defending roll men out of pick and roll. The Hawks have been impacted by injuries at center, and Jalen Johnson was also used as a roll man, so this could lead to a lot of opportunities for Clint Capella. With the Hawks lacking some key secondary options, DeJounte Murray is going to have to come up big for them in this game. Murray had some massive games in Young's absence, but has struggled against the Bulls this year, hitting just over 40% of his shots across 3 games. A heavy dosage of Alex Caruso in 2 of those games didn't help, as Murray went just 4 of 12 from the field when Caruso was his primary defender. If I had to guess, Caruso will split his time defending Murray and Young, so Murray in those minutes without the all-defensive team member hounding him will need to take advantage. My X factor in this game is DeAndre Hunter. As I mentioned earlier, the Hawks' wing depth is lacking right now, and Hunter will need to contribute on both ends. He'll likely spend most of the game defending DeRozan, and should get a lot of looks offensively. Coming off a career year from 3, Hunter has the potential for a big game with a mix of Young and Murray creating opportunities, and the Bulls struggling to contain small forwards from 3 recently. If he's able to get hot from 3, it could be the difference. The winner of this game has a tough reward, as they get to play either the Sixers or Heat for the right to play the Celtics. It's also tough to decide who wins, as both teams will be running short rotations and have savvy coaches. Ultimately, I'm going to pick the Bulls to win. Knowing Trae Young loves these moments, I certainly won't count the Hawks out, though having more trust in the Bulls' defense led to my pick for what should be a close game.